Welcome to our podcast, Taking Life by the Horns.
And Take Noble.
Today we're talking about stonewalling, what it is and how we can handle it, how maybe it's intentional or not intentional. First, let's start with the definition. Candi had a really great definition of stonewalling.
So it is the refusal to communicate and withdrawing, creating distance and shutting down to hurt your partner. It signals to your partner that there's an unwillingness to resolve issues and leaving your partner feeling hopeless.
So an emotional abuse where one person withdraws from communication. And it's different from just giving someone the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the purpose. So why are they stonewalling you? It's usually passive-aggressive behavior used to avoid conflict, punishing the other person, or controlling the situation. And that has a big impact on us. So it can be very damaging to relationships and lead to feelings of frustration, isolation, and resentment.
And it doesn't just have emotional consequences or relationship consequences. It actually has physical consequences. So it can cause cardiovascular problems, increase in blood pressure, tension headaches, rapid heart rate, and so on. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, I actually had a heart attack in the middle of one of these stonewalling episodes where I was being ignored for 3 weeks, where if you can imagine living with somebody and not being spoke to, sleeping in the same bed, not being acknowledged, it creates very strong psychological damage, which actually turns into a physiological damage onto your body. So it's a very dangerous. In fact, I read somewhere that the pain you feel when you're being stonewalled is the exact same pain that you feel in a heart attack. Well, I'm here to tell you, I actually had a heart attack during one of these episodes, but it is the exact same physical pain. Yeah, it's probably the most abusive thing you can do to a person is stonewalling them. But we'll get into what stonewalling is.
Yeah, I know it is the worst thing you can do to me is to ignore me, ghost me, not talk to me. Definitely can feel that like you would get an ulcer, like just literally a heartache, because if the best thing we can do for each other is to communicate. And when you take that away.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about intentional stonewalling and unintentional, because sometimes we just need a break from one another. Right. And that's completely understandable.
So we have intentional stonewalling, which is stonewalling. And then we have unintentional, which is the silent treatment. Intentional stonewalling is actually going to be a motive to control you, to hurt you, to manipulate you. So that's going to be intentional. But unintentional, we have the silent treatment. Mm-hmm. And silent treatment can happen in a lot of situations. There are still both very unhealthy, toxic behaviors, but silent treatment can be addressed in therapy. It can be addressed in a relationship if you're willing to look at yourself, right? So let's talk about the silent treatment, because you and I, we understand this happens a lot in relationships, and sometimes the silent treatment actually happens unintentionally as well. We don't mean to give our partner the silent treatment. We just don't know how to handle our emotions, right?
Well, and it took me a while to learn that sometimes your partner just needs a break, needs a couple minutes to figure it out. So I'm someone that wants to talk about it, understand it right away. I don't want to go to bed angry. So what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. What can I do? That happened quite a bit on my part, and to the point where it can explode. When it's healthy is when your partner can say, I will address this. I just can't right now. I need, and to explain exactly, I'm going to go to town and I'll be home in a couple hours. I need 24 hours to just sit on this for a while. And when they can give you a time limit, then it's not so much an intentional stonewalling. Maybe it's not even the silent treatment, but it can be handled. So communication is the key there.
And a silent treatment isn't going to be communicated, right? A silent treatment is going to be somebody still walking away, not intending to hurt you, but just not knowing how to handle their emotions or how to handle the situation. But a healthy way is going to be to communicate. It is your job to communicate that, hey, you know what? I have a lot of stuff on my work plate right now. I really need to focus on this. And then I'm going to address this with you. Or, you know what? I'm not sure how I feel about this. So give me 24 hours or 48 hours to really figure out how I feel about this so I can address it with you. But yeah, you and I are both on the same page that the key is sticking to that timeline.
Yes, exactly. And that's how a silent treatment can be handled in therapy, that it can be okay and it's not stonewalling if we talk about that and give that boundary and that timeline and stick with it.
Yeah. As you said, temporary.
Yes.
A temporary timeout can be healthy, but it's when you're not communicating that it's not healthy, or if you're using that time out. Because here's the thing, if you don't stick to that timeline, right, and you don't come back and you come up with excuses to, I got something else to do, I need to do, and eventually days and weeks have gone by and you haven't readdressed it, right? Yeah. That's not healthy behavior. No,
definitely
that's
not.
Stonewalling.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shall we go into different examples and signs of stonewalling? So one example is they simply ignore what you're saying. They just flat out will stare you straight in the eyes and completely ignore you, if you can imagine. They will change the subject to avoid uncomfortable topics or uncomfortable emotions. They will often get up and storm off in silence without saying a word to you and then not speak to you for a lengthened period of time after that. They'll often come up with reasons why they can't talk because they're busy, they have other things to do, and these excuses go on and on and on for days and weeks.
And they're short excuses. It's not explaining why work is so busy. It's work is busy. Hang up the phone.
Yeah, I can't talk now. That's it. Refusing to answer a question. So you can ask the same question 20 times and not get an answer. Or get small answers, right? Like you're trying to have a conversation. This was something I experienced a lot, was you had to ask a question a million times in a million different ways to pull little pieces of information out. 3 hours later, you're finally getting part of the story, right? You're finally able to piece things together to figure out what is going on, but just getting those little pieces. They're also dismissive in their body language. So often you'll find them rolling their eyes at you or just sighing and closing their eyes while you're talking to them. Like those are body signs that are telling the other person that they're being dismissed and what they're saying and feeling isn't being heard and validated. And they also have passive aggressive behaviors. So they'll stall, procrastinate. They'll do things to avoid discussing you. So like if you're having a discussion and they get up and start doing the dishes or go change the oil in the car, right? They start to hear like, oh, okay, I guess we're not discussing this now.
Yeah. Which are the hardest stonewalling. It is a passive aggressive behavior. It's, I'm not going to talk about this and there's nothing you can do to make me talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk away from you.
Yeah. There's nothing you can make me do.
Yeah.
To talk about it. Yeah.
And that is stonewalling. And it's very painful.
Yeah.
Some of the effects of stonewalling, we discussed that, like you feel it, you physically can feel it. And how to handle, so there are healthy alternatives in how to handle it. So taking a break. If you do feel overwhelmed, it's okay to take a short break to cool down. Just let the other person know, I need some time. I will return. It's not just walking away. It's, Candi, I just can't deal with this right now. Can we talk about this tomorrow? And then, Candi should, yes, of course, let's talk about it tomorrow. And then you actually have to talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah. And as the other person too, because I think you and I are a lot alike where we're like, we don't want to sit on this. We want to resolve issues right away. But you really have to respect other people's boundaries. Not everybody works like us. And it's not unhealthy to take a time out and deal with things later. And so if you're like us, you need to be okay with that and respect that person's individuality and respect their boundaries and give them that time. But again, it goes back to, you better show up and discuss this like you said and promised.
Yeah. It's not about, I'm going away and I figured out how to deal with this and now it's over. Oh, no. You figured out how to deal with it. I'm still struggling. So we still need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Take a break, do what you need to do, come back, discuss it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So communication, communicate openly. This is how I'm feeling. Hey, it really hurts me when you won't discuss something with me. Yeah. It's important to me that you and I have this discussion, have an open communication. They may not understand. They've dealt with this. They've moved on. They've dealt with this. They think it's okay. They haven't looked at it from your point of view that, well, I still need to talk about this. It's still an open wound for me. So communicate.
Yeah. And they need to be respectful too. If they're the type of person that needs 24, 48 hours to to deal with work or to deal with their emotions, whatever it is, they also need to validate and respect the fact that you're still kind of an anxious person and really still want to deal with that, right? So they can't be like, I'll come back in 7 days. No, you need to come back in 48 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it, every podcast that we have, we're going to continue, set your boundary. So clearly communicate for both of you. How much, I need space. Okay. How much space do you need? And set the boundary. I can't accept 7 days, but I could give you 24 hours. I could give you 48 hours. So set your boundaries, both partners. And again, we're talking about unintentional stonewalling here. Set your boundaries and listen to each other.
Yeah, because if it's intentional stonewalling, there's no discussing anything with this person. And those boundaries are going to become key because those boundaries are going to direct you when it's time to walk away from the situation. Because if you're in a new relationship and 6 months in, you're still figuring each other out and you're realizing that you're with the type of person who needs that time before they come back and address issues, and discussing that, like you said, having those boundaries and setting those expectations, that is completely different because you can't do that with somebody who's stonewalling you.
Yeah.
They're not going to listen to it and it's going to create a huge fight. And that's when you just need to walk away.
Should walk away. Seek understanding. Try to understand the other person's perspective and find common ground. Understand that they do need some time apart and you need to discuss it. Find that common ground.
Yeah.
I think it would kind of went into that. And practice active listening. Show that you're listening by nodding, making eye contact, summarizing what the other person said. That's what we need that person that may be giving us a silent treatment to do, to acknowledge that what I say matters. Don't be on the phone. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Be present.
I bet you're not listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we put the phone down? Can we have a conversation? This may not be important to you, but it's important to me.
Yeah.
So let's have the discussion.
Because that's what a stonewaller is going to do, right? Is
Yeah.
sit on their phone while you're trying to discuss things.
Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the conflict. They can't handle conflict, so they can't handle conflict resolution, which is what we're trying to figure out. How can we handle conflict resolution?
And stonewalling really comes with that motive of intentionally hurting you. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't think, as I talk to more and more people, I think the biggest issue a lot of people have is being ignored. I think that's one thing. Most of the people I talk to is don't ignore me.
Yeah.
If you need time, talk to me and tell me that. But whatever you do, don't ignore me. So a stonewaller is going to know exactly what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
And that's going to be different. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an intent. We have to know their intent.
And I just want to bring up that stonewalling really is a very toxic form that abusers use. It is often used in gaslighting. It is often used in love bombing, which creates trauma bonds. And we have episodes on all of those if you want to check them out, because they all really tie together. But I think what we try to bring to the surface is that although there's some toxic traits, right, they can be perceived there's this gray area. Are they toxic, or is this how some people handle things who don't know how to handle their emotions or things like that, right?
Yes.
Because it can overlap.
Definitely. So we end every podcast with a gratitude. Candi, what's your gratitude today?
Well, I'm going to be grateful for my health, right? As I mentioned earlier, I had a heart attack at 38. I had a lot of health issues stemming from these toxic relationships. And I'm so grateful that I've turned my life around, not just mentally and emotionally, but physically have turned my life around. So thank you so much, Tenneile. What are you grateful for?
So you might have heard earlier in the podcast that I have a dog that was barking. Cotton, come here. I'm very thankful for my dogs, and, they're the constant companion. When we get stonewalled and we are alone, we have our dogs to report back to. So that has helped me in some of those times where, hey, I need that 24 hours. Well, I don't. I need something. And I have these amazing dogs that will cuddle with me, that will never leave, that never wants any time apart. So it helps sometimes, especially when we're dealing with silent treatment or stonewalling or just somebody that needs to take a break.
Yeah, they give us all the love bombing we need.
Yes,
for sure.
The good love bombing. Check that podcast out too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Take Life by the Horns, where we are on the mission to empower 1 million women to step into their power, believe in their ability to live life of their dreams, and fearlessly take life by the horns.
empowering women by their life lessons and manifestation skills, helping you reach your dreams faster. They did it. They'll show you how without making the same mistakes they did. One cowgirl, bull-raising childless wife with multiple businesses and streams of income who is manifesting her dreams into reality. She will help you with your weight loss and wealth goals, making you healthy and wealthy. One badass boy mom with a passion for energy, healing, health, and fitness. She will help you with healing and overcoming limited beliefs to manifest the life you've always dreamt. It's Tenneile and Candice, taking life by the horns.